Mirror, mirror in my hand, whose attempts at humour should be banned. Hello, it is I, Alex Jacob, otherwise known in the trade as Cobra Whips. Right, I'm doing this series on whip making, but I thought I would share my little strand cutters with you separately, because it will save confusion and just add a little clarity. Alright. Here is the insides of a whip. I need an 8-strand plaited belly. I've measured the circumference and I need 1.5 times the circumference in overall strand width. The circumference is 40 mils, that's 60 mils. It's going to be an 8-strand belly, so that's going to be 7.5 mil wide strands at this end, dropping to 3 mil wide at this end, and then carrying on down to be the core for the point section of the overlay. The first 6 inches of this are parallel sided. I'm also going to be plaiting from up here and plaiting down the way, because this will act as a foundation for plaiting up the way, because this whip is going to have an English eye. Okay, so I'm going to need 1.5 times the finished tapered length in strands. So this belly is 61 inches long, minus the 6 inches, that's 55 inches, times 1.5, that's 82.5 inches of strand length, plus this little bit at the end. Rather than cutting the strands from a yoke, I'm going to cut them to a double taper and start plaiting from the middle of the strands here. Right, the difference between 7.5 mils and 3 mils is 4.5 mils. That's the amount of strand drop over 82.5 inches. Let's call it 82 inches. Right, this is going to have to come down to 1/4 millimeters, and there are 18 1/4 millimeters of drop between 7.5 and 4 and 3 mils. So it's 82 inches of continuous taper divided by 18 quarters comes out at 4.5, well 4.55 inches per 1/4 millimeter of strand drop. There we go, that's measured out to 4.5 mils. That's my little guide stick. Because what it's going to come down to is a certain amount of taper over a certain distance, repeated nice and easily around the thing. I could have gone for 1/2 inch drop over 9 inches, sorry, 1/2 millimeter drop over 9 inches, but it's a longer stretch. It's just more convenient this way. Take your pick. Okay. I'm going to need some 3 mils at the end, so I'm going to need a total of 7 intervals of 4. You can all the working out of this is done in my other videos, okay? So it's going to be 7 intervals of 4.5 at 3 mils, a taper of 3 to 7.5 mils, and then 7 intervals of 7.5 mils to cover this parallel section and the butt extension up and down, multiplied by 1.5 to allow for it being plaited. Okay, the method is this, and the tool is this. I came up with these a little while ago. Got left and right-handed versions, and you can take your pick of having it set up for a curved Stanley blade or a snap-off blade. I've been mucking around with this one, which is why it's a little bit rusted. Practicing left-handed, not doing very well. And I think I prefer, on the whole, the snap-off blades. But you do have to adjust them. Well, you don't have to. You'd have to be careful is what you have to do, because it's a knife. You have to adjust them so you don't snag your thumb, or just keep the little thumb wheel here. Right, the deal is, figure out where I'm starting off, which is here. This time I've got my reading glasses on, so I can see what I'm doing, get right up close, and I'm in a kneeling position so I can get over the top of it so you lot can actually see what I'm about here. Okay, yeah, first of all, remove as much of the slack as possible, pre-stretch it. Save second guessing how wide to do the strands. The formula that I read in David Morgan's book, I think it was David Morgan's book, Whips and Whip Making, and Dennis Rush's book, Beginner's Guide to Whip Making, I think, from what I recall, they'd go for 1 1/4 times the circumference of the core in overall strand width. But that might be after the leather's been stretched. With this tool and this method and this leather, this is the formula I've come across, and it's been consistent for a wee while now. Okay, here we go. Wrong one. Let's go for the right-handed one. Right, this is essentially a 1mm pitch, so 1 turn per millimetre thread on this, and this little custom nut, had a bunch of these made up, has 8 facets, and I've marked them 0, 8, so I know where I am, and 1 through 7, offset even and odd, just because it's easier that way. Okay, right. So what I do is wind this out to 3 mils. 1, 2, 3. So you see I've already cut one strand there, that was from the last video. Set up for cutting this one from the same place because I want to match up the ends on either side. Anyway, 7 at 3. 1 at 3 mils. 2 at 3 mils. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. Right, now for the tapered section. So it's 2 of these 8s, isn't it? It's per quarter, which is why I've written per quarter down there. As you see, 7 at 3, 3 to 7.5, 7 at 7.5, and back down to 3. Right, that's 3. So 3 and 1/8, 3 and a quarter. 3 and a half. 3 and 3/4. 4. This is much easier standing at a table, but I'm camping in Wales over this rather moist bank holiday weekend, so I've got my travelling gear with me. Right up to 4. Is that 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what comes from yakking at you, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Jolly D. Pressing on. So 4 and quarter, 4 and a half. The little stick helps hold the flappy bits down as well. 4 and 3/4. 5 and a quarter. Whoops, that's why I like the hook blades. Doesn't slide out. A quarter. 5 and a half. But these are sharper. 5 and 3/4. Oops, pointing in the wrong direction again. And 6 and a quarter. Oh yeah, should have allowed a little bit more there. I'm kind of busy with videoing, so I'm doing it by the book. Where you come across a stretchy bit, you can just put a little bit more through. It'll crumple up because it's stretchy. 6 and a quarter, 6 and a half, 6 and 3/4, 7, what are we up to? 7 and a quarter, 7 and a half. Now I need 7 intervals of 7 and a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now I screw a little screw back in with my thumb at the required rate. 7 and a half, 7 and a quarter. 7, 6 and 3/4, 6 and a half, 6 and a quarter, 6. Not easy doing this kneeling actually. 5 and 3/4, 5 and a half, 5 and a quarter, 5. Oops. See, done it again. I think I'll go back to the curved blades actually. I'm not sure. Maybe just put a bit more angle on it. 4. Hold it like this maybe. And 3/4, 4 and a half, 4 and a quarter, 4. 3 3/4, 3 1/2, 3 1/4. 3. I've used this to cut strands down to nominally 2 mils. Works nicely. Got to be more careful. 7/3. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. Okay, and there we have a strand which should be pretty much identical to the previous one. Let's have a look. It seems fairly reasonable, does it not? When I cut the next pair, I'll do so from a point which doesn't start or finish at the same point as these. So the stretchy and non-stretchy and thick and thin patches are all offset, so I won't need to split them down. But there you go. Continuously tapered strands, and there's not a lot of difference in length between them. Not significant, certainly. Not over that length. Right. Well, I've got the bits and pieces for a number of these, so if you want one, give me a shout. alex@cobrawhips.com. I'm charging £75 sterling plus postage and packing for these. Thank you for your kind attention. Bye for now. Where's the off button? Here. Ta.